In the town of Willowbrook lived a man named David. He was a humble man leading the humdrum life of the local librarian. His days were spent in the cozy embrace of books, and his evenings were usually filled with the warmth of his cozy home. However, on a cold fall day, a series of events would unfold that would shatter the tranquility he had come to know. One fresh morning, David stepped out of his home, a charming cottage on the outskirts of Willowbrook. His breath turned to mist as he made his way to his car, a weathered but beloved vehicle that had served him well over the years. With the key in the ignition, he started the engine and waited for the car to warm up, watching his breath fog up on the windshield. As he idly stared at the glass, he noticed something: tiny palm prints etched into the surface. His eyebrows furrowed in confusion. Why would there be baby palm prints on his windshield? He looked around, half expecting to see a parent chasing their mischievous child. But the surroundings were eerily empty. Hesitantly, he reached out and touched the palm prints, his fingers touching the glass. With a simple motion, he wiped away the marks, leaving the windshield clean and devoid of any trace of the mysterious palm prints. He grinned at his own unease, writing it off as a strange occurrence on an otherwise unremarkable day. And after a few minutes, he realized that the handprints were from inside his locked car. It was probably the strangest and creepiest unexplained phenomenon that had ever happened to him. To this day, he hasn't been able to figure out how it happened. In a small town nestled between hilly terrain lived a middle school student named Emily. She was known for her inquisitive nature. Her family owned a charming two-story house on the outskirts of town, which became the stage for a creepy and exciting experience that Emily would never forget. Every day, after finishing her classes, Emily would rush home eagerly. Her family had different schedules, so she was often the first to arrive. On a particularly cool fall afternoon, the golden hues of the setting sun cast long shadows over the neighborhood. As Emily walked through the front door with her backpack on her shoulder, with a smirk, she kicked off her shoes and headed into the kitchen, deciding to grab a snack before getting started on her homework. The smell of freshly baked cookies hung in the air, remnants of the pastries her mother used to bake. Snacking on the warm cookies, she pondered the tasks ahead of her. After a while, Emily set aside her empty plate and stood up from her chair. With determination, she gathered her textbooks and backpack, preparing to climb the wooden stairs leading to her bedroom. Each step creaked softly under her feet as she climbed, the anticipation of a quiet evening of studying fueling her excitement. However, as she reached the middle of the stairs, something strange caught her attention. A soft, melodic sound, like a haunting lullaby, danced through the air. Emily's heart twitched as her senses heightened. She remained perfectly still, the strange melody stirring her curiosity. The melody, familiar but unsettling, grew louder with each passing moment. Her heart pounded in her chest as she strained to make out the notes. It was unmistakable, the melody of Ring Around the Rosie, a long-forgotten nursery rhyme. Goosebumps ran down her skin as the haunting melody filled her ears. Doubt and disbelief swarmed. In Emily's soul, she knew she was alone at home, and there was no plausible explanation for the music. She had no devices that could play music spontaneously, and even if she did, why would she play Ring Around the Rosie? Questions swarmed in her head, and her imagination painted all sorts of creepy scenarios. Emily stood frozen with fear as the melody continued to play. Her heart pounded in her chest, and she pondered whether to keep climbing or go back down. The thought of entering her bedroom, the source of the melody, sent shivers down her spine. Fighting the terror that threatened to overwhelm her, Emily turned slowly on her heels, cautiously making her way down the stairs. Unable to shake off her anxiety, Emily waited anxiously for her family to return home. As the hours passed, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that stretched across the living room. When her family finally arrived, Emily eagerly recounted the details of their blood-chilling encounter, her words filled with a mixture of dread. After dinner, with the support of her family, Emily mustered up the courage to return to her bedroom. The walls were flooded with the soft light of lamps, creating a warm and cozy atmosphere that was in stark contrast to her previous sense of foreboding. She entered cautiously, her gaze scanning every corner as if expecting the source of the music to reveal itself. But to her surprise, her room looked exactly as she had left it this afternoon, no sign of intrusion or anything out of the ordinary. days turned into weeks, and the incident gradually became a topic of discussion among her friends and family. Despite the passage of time, the memory of that haunting melody remained in Emily's mind, a constant reminder that even in the most ordinary of places, the extraordinary can unfold. Serene and cozy comforts turned into something eerie. After class ended, Emily no longer rushed home as quickly as she used to. All the time she had only one thing on her mind. In a picturesque town, there lived a young man named Ethan. As a teenager, he was tormented by a recurring dream that haunted him at night for months. In this dream, he found himself sitting alone at a quaint table on the patio of a charming restaurant. The air was warm and a light breeze rustled the leaves of the nearby trees. Ethan's heart beat faster as he remembered the vivid details of that dream. While he waited for his food to be brought to him, a disheveled homeless man approached the patio. His appearance was marked by hardship. His eyes carried the weight of his struggles. The man kindly asked for some change, and Ethan, wanting to help, dug through his wallet to offer a few dollars. But the serenity of the moment would suddenly be shattered. The squeal of tires pierced the air, and Ethan's attention shifted to the intersection outside the restaurant. A violent collision unfolded before his eyes as two cars crashed into a chaotic symphony of metal and glass. Without hesitation, Ethan jumped up from his seat and raced toward the scene, driven by a desire to help those in need. Just as he ran out into the road, however, a car slammed into him, throwing him into the darkness of unconsciousness. He awoke abruptly, his heart pounding as if it had just collided with reality itself. This dream haunted him night after night, leaving him confused and restless about its meaning. As the years passed, the dream slowly faded from Ethan's mind, its grip loosening on his thoughts. He grew into adulthood, living his life without the constant specter of that strange dream. At the age of 28, he found himself sitting at an outdoor table on the patio of On the Border restaurant. The sun colored the sky orange and pink as he waited for his food. The atmosphere was eerily familiar. Out of the corner of his eye, Ethan noticed a homeless man walking by. Memories of the dream came flooding back to him, sending shivers down his spine. But the man didn't offer Ethan change. His heart beat faster when he heard the screech of tires, a sound that seemed to echo from the past. His eyes darted to the intersection near the restaurant, and there, in a surreal moment, he witnessed a car accident unfold before him. Panic slammed into his veins, and he instinctively rose from his seat, ready to rush to the scene. But this time he stopped at the edge of the sidewalk, his body frozen. There, an SUV was speeding toward the intersection. The driver, absorbed in his phone, was completely oblivious to the chaos and Ethan, who just might get hit. Ethan, surveying the road once more, rushed to the scene, his hands shaking as he checked out the parties involved in the accident. Miraculously, everyone seemed to be relatively unharmed, a surreal parallel to the dream that had haunted him for years. As he helped those in need, his thoughts spiraled, wrestling with the events that had just unfolded before him. After that day, Ethan was confronted with a mysterious connection between his dream and reality. If he hadn't been haunted by that dream for a long time, Ethan would no longer be alive. In the quaint town of Buffalo, the events of this story unfold. In a charming place there was also a prestigious college, where our protagonist, Alex Thompson, was drawn into a series of inexplicable events that forever changed his idea of life and death. It all started in a journalism class that Alex reluctantly enrolled in. Professor Eleanor Gray, known for her unorthodox teaching methods, assigned her students a rather peculiar project. The assignment was to write an obituary for a deceased grandparent, a rather somber topic that gave the students goosebumps. If that wasn't challenging enough, Professor Gray insisted that the assignment be completed by the next day. For Alex, the assignment took a back seat to other pressing responsibilities. Procrastination became a faithful companion and days turned into weeks. Soon enough, the night before the assigned task arrived and Alex had no choice but to face the task that haunted him. Feeling the gravity of the task ahead, Alex decided to call his mother to get some biographical information about their maternal grandfather. As they talked, memories of their grandfather's warm smile and comforting presence filled their minds. As the conversation delved into the details of his career, there was a hitch in the narrative. a company name that neither Alex nor their mother could remember. When my mom called my grandfather, my grandmother picked up the phone in a panic. Grandma frantically explained that paramedics had just arrived and were performing CPR on Alex's grandfather because he had stopped breathing and passed out. Mom managed to talk to Grandma on the phone until they took Grandpa to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. While Alex and his mom were on the phone talking about his grandpa's obituary, he was dying. It still terrifies the whole family when they think about the timing. The passage of time seemed to blur, blending the task with the reality of loss. Ironically, the moments leading up to this moment seemed like scenes from a surrealistic script. The juxtaposition of writing an obituary while their grandfather was slipping away defied all logic. The coincidence was eerie, making Alex wonder about the mysterious connection between their assignment and the events that had just unfolded. In the end, the task was done, but it carried a weight beyond words on paper. The boundaries between life, death, and the ethereal were blurred in ways that were not easily explained. In the heart of the lively city of Viridian, where the nightlife boomed against the backdrop of tall skyscrapers and neon lights, was the famous Lumina nightclub. It is here that a story of destiny and connection unfolds, changing the lives of two people forever. The story begins with a young woman named Sarah, who gets lost in the intoxicating allure of the night. One fateful evening, Sarah, accompanied by her merry band of friends, traveled to the mysterious depths of Lumina. The atmosphere was electrifying. Pulsating music and kaleidoscopic lights created an atmosphere of euphoria. Sarah, giving herself over to the enchanting rhythm of the night, surrendered to the energy that surrounded her. Amidst the pulsing beats and swirling colors, an inexplicable feeling came over Sarah, a special urge that seemed to emanate from deep within. A silent whisper urged her to show the fabricated pain in her leg, even though her leg felt perfectly normal. Confused by this irrational compulsion, she brushed it off as a side effect of her intoxication. However, the more she tried to dismiss it, the more insistently the impulse tugged at her consciousness. As the night wore on, the mysterious desire grew stronger and stronger, working its way through the fabric of Sarah's thoughts. Unable to ignore it any longer, she made a bold decision. With her heart racing, she approached the stranger at the bar, a young man named Alex, who sat immersed in his thoughts. Gaining courage, Sarah blurted out, her words tinged with disbelief and apology. "I know it's crazy, but I have a huge urge to tell you that my leg hurts. I know it's crazy, I'm sorry." To Sarah's surprise, the detached expression on Alex's face contorted, replaced by a flood of tears that seemed to flow from a deep well of grief. His response was unexpected and emotionally charged, leaving Sarah confused and concerned for his well-being. Amidst sobs, Alex managed to articulate, "You don't understand. My father just passed away." The weight of his words hung heavy in the air with the weight of deep sadness. With a mixture of shock and sympathy, Sarah listened as Alex recounted his father's recent passing. He revealed the pact they had made before his father's death, a pact that if there was an afterlife, they would come up with a message that would serve as an irrefutable sign of communication. The seemingly arbitrary phrase they'd chosen was, "I hurt my leg." A shiver ran down Sarah's back as the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. The inexplicable compulsion she felt, the message it conveyed, all seemed to harmonize with the contract between Alex and his father. At that moment, the nightclub and its kaleidoscopic lights faded to nothingness, replaced by the gravity of the etheric connection that had been created. In the city of Houston lived a woman named Lily. Houston was a close-knit community where everyone knew each other, and the tranquility of the place seemed undisturbed by the cares of the outside world. Lily was an observant soul with a keen intuition, often relying on her instincts to guide her through life's difficulties. One sunny afternoon, Lily found herself strolling through the local farmer's market, reveling in the colors and aromas of freshly picked produce. As she wandered among the stalls, a familiar feeling came over her, a tingling sensation that seemed to come from deep within. It wasn't the first time she'd experienced it, in fact, it was the third time in the last year. The feeling was unusual. It forced her to talk about something as personal as someone's body, but still rooted in genuine concern. The first time it had happened, she had been tempted to comment on her old friend's birthmark, but the thought of bringing up such an intimate topic had held her back. Shortly thereafter, the same friend was diagnosed with skin cancer centered around the very mole she was about to discuss. The second incident occurred with her cousin Peter. Lily considered mentioning his constant cough to him, but hesitated, deeming it intrusive. Unfortunately, a few weeks later, Peter's diagnosis of lung cancer shocked the entire family. The connection between her intuition and these diagnoses was eerie, and she couldn't easily dismiss the pattern. Now, in the middle of the farmer's market, her intuition told Lily that she could share her anxiety with an old neighbor, Sarah, who had recently moved back to Houston. Sarah was examining a basket of apples when Lily approached her. "Hi, Sarah." Lily greeted her warmly. Sarah looked up, surprised and pleased to see her neighbor. "Lily, how are you?" "Very well," Lily replied, her heart pounding as she felt that familiar sensation again. "I know this may seem strange, but I had a strong urge to comment on something, and I can't explain it." Sarah's eyes widened, curiosity awakening in her. "What do you mean?" Lily hesitated, then finally spoke up. "It's about your throat. I don't want to go overboard, but I felt I had to mention it." Sarah touched her own throat in confusion. "It's weird, Lily, but I appreciate your concern. In fact, I've been having some discomfort there lately." Lily's heart dropped, but she recovered quickly. "You should get it checked out, just to be safe." For the next few weeks, Lily couldn't shake the feeling that she had made a mistake in stating this. She had acted on her intuition, but it seemed like a forced and foolish gesture. Doubt gnawed at her, making her question her own sanity. However, anxiety was soon replaced by shock when Sarah knocked on her door one evening. "Lily," Sarah began in a slightly trembling voice, "I wanted to thank you. I took your advice and went to the doctor about my throat. They found cancer at an early stage." Lily's heart beat faster as she realized the magnitude of what she had done. Her intuition, despite its inexplicable nature, had potentially saved her friend's life.